Hi, everybody. So this is the crisis response conversations. I think Sam said this was the sixth one in the series, maybe, believe it or not.
We
this
are
one,
on number six, yeah.
six. So this one is centered on summer planning and summer programming and what summer at the library might look like. Today's April 29th, believe it or not. Time, I guess, still has meaning. It's Blur's Day. It's Blur's Day, April 29th. And this is that session. For those of you that don't know, I'm Angie Manfredi. I'm the Youth Services Consultant here at the State Library. This is my contact information. My phone mostly works, and sometimes when you call, you get a message that says it's Mary Monks, and sometimes you get a message that says it's me, but it's definitely me. So if you ever get a weird message when you call my phone, just leave the message and I will call you back. This is my phone number, my email. Usually, as you know here, I'd share a picture of myself or something from my life. And so one of the things I wanted to share was one of the things I want to urge you to do, which is to take some time in your life to do something that cares for you. For me, what that is to turn off the computer and not look at the internet and turn on a good old-fashioned Dateline murder show about a guy who killed his wife for insurance and color a picture. Nothing relaxes me more than a good murder show and coloring some birds. So this is one of my recent creations. It's from Lauren Falkenberry. She has these great coloring pages she posts every day. When this presentation is over, you're going to get an email, and that email is going to have a copy of this slide deck, and that's a live link to where you can download these coloring pages too. So whatever it is for you, if it's knitting, if it's going for a walk, if it's talking to a person you love, it's watching a special about the Green River Killer, one of the most prolific serial killers in American history, and coloring a picture of a cat, you should do that, because taking care of yourself in these times are important. And that doesn't have to look the same way for anybody else, but it's important, and we want you to do that and recharge as necessary. And I think you'll agree, I've come a long way in the coloring department, so congratulations to me. Also to Gary Ridgway for not being denied release from prison as a serial killer. So you also know I like to start with an agenda, what we're up to. We're going to look at the changes that are going to find their way into our summer at the library. We're going to do a couple focusing guiding activities, and what those I really want to be, I want those to be the big topics, because then we're going to break into small groups that are facilitated by the wide amount of library staff here. There are going to be individual breakout rooms. If you've never used those before in Zoom, it will bounce you into your own room and will be small groups, and you'll have the ability at that time, you can use chat, you can unmute your mic, we can really talk and ask each other at that point in smaller groups, and they'll be divided up into, it depends on how many people are here in the room at that time. It will do it automatically. It'll move you to a room automatically. You don't have to worry about it. And after that discussion, we'll come back together for kind of a wrap up. And it'll be about half me talking and half the small group facilitation. So now is the time for really you to pull out a notepad and take some notes. This is going to be recorded, but it'll also give you some things to talk about when you're in the small chat, to take some of those change discussion and focusing and guiding activities to bring with you into the small group. So now's the time to, however you take notes, if you want to do that in another window, if you want to do that on a piece of paper, now's the time to kind of start with that. And that's kind of our rough agenda for today. So with that in mind, I always like to start with this. How are you doing? How are you doing? If you want to say, type one word for how you're feeling in the chat. I think one of the things that this does, we can't solve it. We can't come up with an answer, but one of the things I think this does is it lets you know that you're not alone in how you're feeling. Other people are as confused or as overwhelmed as you. Other people might be feeling good. Other people might be feeling ready, right? I think that's a good important minute to not only talk about how to actually identify how you feel, but also to see how other people are doing. And while we do that, I want to kind of start, I think this is really helpful, it is for me, I want us to do some short breathing activities just to bring us into the center of this moment. And so with that, I'm just going to ask you to take some deep breaths. We're going to take some deep breaths, hold them, and then breathe out. So we're going to start by saying breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Sometimes I do that to just kind of stop for a moment and get to right where we are. And it also reminds me how grateful I feel to be able to take deep breaths in a moment like this. So in moments like that, when you begin to feel this way, I always encourage you, no matter where you are or what you're doing, to stop and do that quick breathing in and out. And I think it brings us back to that second. And so again, I think if you scroll through the chat, you'll see how many people feel the same emotions. And I'm sorry, and I know that there's not one answer for the way that any of us are feeling, but I also think remembering and seeing that other people are feeling that too, and that you are not alone in those emotions, even acknowledging that helps us feel more located and present, and helps us feel less alone, to know how other people are feeling. So I think doing that check-in with other people you work with, other people who are in your household, other people who you're in communication with, is also really helpful. So that is our beginning. And tied to that, related, it is okay to feel grief. For those of you that haven't read this article that went viral, that's a link to it. Again, reminder, you're going to get a link to this presentation. All these links are live links. You'll be able to click on them. This is an article from the Harvard Business Review that said the emotion that you're feeling is grief, and reading it was enormously helpful to me. And I think that it is okay to acknowledge and call this feeling what it is, which is grief. We have lost so much so quickly. So many people in our state are sick and dying, and not just in our state, but in our country, and not just in our country, but the world. And that is an enormous blow. It's an enormous feeling, as many people died in the Vietnam War, died this month. And it's okay to feel that, and it's okay to acknowledge that those things are all impacting how we feel right now. We have lost so much so quickly. We face an uncertain future, which is scary and isolating. And we know that this summer will look differently than ever before, but we're not sure what it will look like. And there's a lot of moving pieces, and things change as we see every day, every moment, every hour, it feels like, right? We want to do as much good as possible with the least amount of harm. That's always our goal. But never before has it been so complicated or so unsure on how to do that. And again, I am not offering you the solution to any of these problems. I am not a therapist, although I often go to therapy. I am not your therapist, but one thing that is so important is acknowledging these feelings. And by acknowledging these feelings, we can begin to deal with them, and also we can begin to see how they're interacting with how we feel. And also, this kind of emotional awareness helps us in our interactions with other people, and helps us maybe bring some kind of that awareness to our dealings with them. So it's okay to feel all that, and I'd like to talk about it, because I believe everything gets better when you talk about it, because I'm an Italian librarian. It's like it was meant to be. Before you do anything else for summer, this is what I need you to consider. Why do you do summer reading? Why do you do summer programming? Not what is it, not how do you do it. Don't care how you do it, right? Why? So for those of you that have never seen this before, I found out during the last one, we had a previous Big Ideas book chat about this. There is a viral TED Talk, literally it's been viewed over 50 million times, by this marketer named Simon Sinek, and it's about this idea, which is get to your why. Nobody cares what you do. Nobody cares what you do. They don't care what you do. They care why you do it. He uses Apple and Martin Luther King and the Wright brothers to talk about why they're successful, and it's because they know what their why is. So in the chat, I want you to think, not what, not how, why. What is the why for why you do summer programs? And that Find Your Why, it's a link to it. It became so popular that Simon Sinek wrote a book about it, which I am reading right now, and it's amazing. And it's just like so motivating to me. Why do you do this? Right? Foster growth, community togetherness, fun, foster growth, to support the community, to minimize the summer decline. It's fun. increase involvement, okay? Your why is about people, okay? Your why is not about to get a bunch of stamps on logs, that is not your why. That's your how. That's your what, okay? Your why is at the core of all this. And no matter what changes and no matter how it looks, the why is the core of it. Find your why. Even in this weird, wild world that is now, find your why. And look through these answers. They all come back to one thing, and that thing is people, community, people. That's the why. That is the why. So I want you to keep that in mind. And these are going to be kind of our guiding thoughts, and they tie right back into that golden circle of why. And when you get bogged down on the what and the how, well, it's a bean stack, or maybe reader squared, or maybe when you get bogged down on that, you come back to your why. So these are going to be the things we want you to take in small group. There's a lot of ideas. Some of this is the ideas that's going to get you going. It's going to get you thinking. It's going to give you a chance. I totally encourage you, chat is fine here, but remember, we're going to break up into these smaller groups where you'll have an easier time with mic access. So if you have something really great you want to share, you can think about sharing it in your small group. The small groups will be recorded. So even if you miss out on what's going on in the other groups now, they'll be recorded. So when you watch the recording of this, you can see them all. So not that I want to discourage chat, never want to do that, but just as a reminder, we'll see that these big thoughts processed in other ways. Number one thing, I want you to repeat this to yourself over and over again. You're going to hear me say it over and over again. What works for families without reliable internet works for all families. What works for families with reliable internet does not work for all families. So if you make something that has the shiniest, fanciest bells, ding dongs, and whistles, but it only works for families with reliable internet, it is not working for all families. It doesn't matter what kind of engagement you get. So all of this centered, we're moving everything online, we're moving all of that. I want you to come back to be mindful of who you are serving and how, and who is being left out and why. These are questions we ask ourselves all the time. These are questions that do not have one simple answer. These are questions that we realize are complicated. And yet, I ask you to keep them in the forefront of your thoughts. However, this is a summer of seeing what sticks. We're going to throw a bunch of pasta at the wall and we're going to see what works. Some of it is going to work for this summer. Some of it might work for every summer. Some of it might be something that you do from now on. Some of it might slide right off and you got to go back and cook it some more. But this is a summer where there is not one answer. There is not one way. There is not one model for how it's going to look in every place. This is a summer of throwing the pasta at the wall, and hopefully it looks as good as that, and seeing what sticks. So with that in mind, this summer, no matter if your library is in one of the 22 counties or one of the 77 other counties, or whether you're not going to open till the 15th, or you're not going to open till June, or you don't know when you're going to open, or you're working on a tiered opening, your goal should be to take summer to people. Find the essential service points, grocery stores, food pickup sites, sites serving the children of essential workers. Where and how is your school district delivering food? Do you know the answer to that? If you don't know the answer to that, now is the time to find out the answer. Where and how is your school district delivering food? Where and how are these summer lunch sites closest to you? If you don't know the answer to that, now is the time to find it out. Where are the food banks in your community? Who is providing them? Churches? Community organizations? First Harvest of Iowa? We know that people are facing an unprecedented time of American hunger. So there are places that are trying to feed them. Where are they in your community? What can you take to those sites? What can you bring to those sites for the people who don't have reliable internet, who are lucky they just got a box of pasta, who don't have Legos at home to do a Lego challenge? What can you take there that you don't have to worry about coming back to the library, that you don't have to worry about coming to get stamps on? Where can you go? What are the essential service points in your community? And how can you get to them? Consider. This is a big thing I want you to think about this summer. I've been a proponent of this, some of you know, for a long time, but especially now. To move your focus away from completion. How many kids finished? How many kids finished? How many kids finished? How many kids finished? Move your focus away from completion, and you move your focus to points of contact. You need things to report to your board. You need things more than ever to justify why we are spending money on this program, why we are spending money on the library being open. Less about completing, more about points of contact. Who did you interact with? How many things did you give away? You're not going to go in front of your city and say, this mom with 12 kids took 12, so I'm only counting her as one. You don't care. You don't care. The mom with 12 kids, she needs a break. Can you just give her a break? It's been a hard year, you know? Count bags taken, count prizes, logs handed out, count mailings instead of check, 20 minutes, check. Include instructions for adults. Include instructions for adults, not just how to read 20 minutes a day. How do you access the library's e-services? Where are the food banks? Where are places you can go? What are the hours of the parks? Include instructions and information. Hey, did you know that we have all these online databases? Hey, did you know that you can get free such and such from this place? Make it one big blitz, right? With that in mind, even if your building is open, and some of your buildings are going to be open, even if your building is open, the goal is still to minimize contact, which means take and go. Not weekly returns, okay? Not every week you come in and get a stamp on your hand, okay? A one-time return. You get one, you get one, you take one. You get one, you take one. Buy, grab, and go, as an aside. Anytime you put anything out, please include signs that say, they're all the same, don't touch them all, just take one. Don't dig through them. You get our favorite line, let's say it together, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. They're all the same, just take one. Take the one you touch. Make and take kits. Some of you that went to the summer reading workshops last year, there was a list of them. This is a link to the list on the State Library's website of the instructions, but you can make them. We would print out 4 comic book pages, put them in an envelope with some colored pencils and be like, write your own comic book. Do a challenge and then teach 3 other people. Teach your grandma on Zoom. Teach your little sister in your house. Teach your mom at home. Teach somebody else. Take and do. Take and pass on. Okay? Not bring back. Our old pal, the Pony Express. This has come up a little about the cost of mailing. I'm not giving you the cost, that it's going to be cheap, that this is the answer, that you should spend all your money on mailing. But now is the time to consider mailing. Okay? Mail out reading logs and challenges as postcards. I saw a library in Oregon that sent everybody a thing that said, hey kid, your library misses you and visit us on YouTube at this website. Hey, we're thinking about you. Don't forget, are there city mailings you can get in on, right? People have said people in apartment buildings might not get it. Again, none of this is you're going to get every person. None of this is you're going to get every single person. You're going to get everybody exactly right. But think across the board, how can you reach the most people possible? Think density, right? Some of you have heard me mention this before. Again, this is a link you'll be able to see. Virtual story times for the Tennessee Library Blind and Physically Handicapped. Literally what they do is for children who are blind and physically and low vision, they send them an envelope, and in the envelope, like in the example they show, it has shredded paper, pom-poms, feathers, a bunch of stuff, and then the librarian calls their house and reads them a story on the phone, and they touch the things along the way. So it says, and then in the nest, and they feel the shredded paper. And then do you feel a shape that feels like a square? Okay, so these are the kind of things that libraries that serve blind and physically handicapped patrons have already done. But they're out there, they exist, they can be modified. I linked to and if you got the newsletter, I linked to a webinar the Colorado State Library did with Denver Public Library talking about their Dial a Story program, how they started Dial a Story. If you haven't watched that, it's a great place to watch. They walk you all the way through how they started it, the service that provides it. So all of that kind of thing, you know, again, it might not be shredded paper. You might not call and do it to 10 kids, but the Tennessee Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped looked at that and said, how can we do story time in a way for our patrons that are blind, physically, and low vision? How can we do that, right? So so many different ways. Maybe you only do it one time, but you still do it one time. Especially for those of you that are in larger cities. Do you still have a print newspaper? Can you do weekly content for them? For those of you that get the Gazette, they started a kids activity page. It has things like finish this drawing. Imagine you did one that was like book talks, or you wrote a bunch of poems, or you wrote kids through what a haiku was, and you said write in a haiku it yourself and mail it into the paper, and then the paper will publish your haiku in the library's haiku corner. I just made that up, okay? Newspapers. If you still have one, if they have that little, they're always like the little self-published one, right? The radio, Homer, Alaska, is doing weekly story times on the radio. She's reading from classics. I think she's reading Alice in Wonderland now, but she's reading from public domain classics once a week on the radio, story time on the radio. Are you close to public access television? Especially if you're looking for a place for performers, that might be a possibility, that you might be able to put up a whole big thing, have them say 800 times, this is brought to you by the library. The library has put it on the public access television. School districts are using public access television now to teach classes, right? Reach out to who is your local media. Who is the closest to you local media? We're not going to talk a lot about this in this section. We don't have time. If you want to use your time in small groups to do this, you can. There are online options, but I want you to remember what we said at the beginning. Okay, there's Beanstack, there's Read Squared, there's Reader Zone, there's Wandu Reader, and there's creating your own through Google Forms. All of these are options. I think Beanstack is, some of you probably know better and have talked to them. I've heard they're full until July. Some people have told me they're not even starting their summer programs until July, so they're not worried about it. I know a lot of people in Iowa have already started with Read Squared, Reader Zone. I think there's different options. Again, we're not going to talk a ton about that in here, but tied to it, I want you to think about the pros and cons, and there are pros and cons. Cons, perhaps, one more password, site, and screen for adults to juggle after they've just been through 3 months of, Mom, what's my Google password? Mom, hey Mom, at my school, my class, Mom. Screen fatigue is real. Ask yourself how you feel about going to 800 Zoom meetings a day. It will not address everyone. And is this where you want to spend your money? Those are some cons. Those are some questions. Some pros, you can use it for multiple programs. You can use it year round. You can make a fall reading program out of it. It might give you better statistics if that's what you're looking for. It can save you time once you have it set up, and you can use it for multiple ages. You could do an adult reading challenge on it. You can do there's different options. So those are pros and cons. Again, if in your small chat, if you want to say, hey, I'm thinking about Beanstack, can someone help me and send me your email? My number one thing that I want to encourage all of you to do is work together. But I still have to give them prizes. Do you though? Do you? Do you though? Do you? If you already bought prizes, they're not going to go bad. Okay? The Slinky, the Junkie, Slap Hand, that's not going to rot unless you bought food, in which case, give it away now. People are starving. You can save them. The kids don't give a crap if the bag says Once Upon a Fairy Tale and they gave it 2 summers later. They don't care. Okay? You can give it out in fall. You can give it out in 2022. It's not going to go bad. Okay? It's not worth having people come in and paw over and fight and cry over, or paying to mail them a Slinky that breaks, a paddle ball. Do pickup, if anything. Be like, there's your bag. Come take the bag. You're done. Get it away from me. And it's over, and I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm not going to turn this into their cheating. They didn't earn it. They didn't. Man, it's the apocalypse. I think we all deserve a freaking ping pong paddle ball, okay? Consider e-gift certificates are ways you can support your local businesses. Here's something for you to spend in this business in September. Here's something for you to spend in this business at the end of summer. If you have money, more than ever, I really encourage you to spend that money on books and to bring literacy and books in the home, books, magazines, printed material in as many ways as you can to kids who have been cut off from them. So I really encourage you now more than ever to really think about how you want to spend your money and what the best use of spending your money is. Look for your partners. Who are your partners? This is the time to summer. Within your city or county, we're talking about parks departments. Now's the time to try a story walk, to do drop-offs in the park, trailheads. Man, people are going to want to go outside. People are going to be outside. Your health and human services. Who is still doing Meals on Wheels? Can you make a packet for the Meals on Wheels people that has 5 large print word searches, a couple Reader's Digest condensed poems, a note from the library that says we're still thinking about you, get a digital card, and then you don't have to worry about distributing it to seniors, the Meals on Wheels people take it? Is your Health and Human Services sending out mailings regularly to people? Are they posting? Do they have a wider database access than you and would be willing to send something out? Is your Parks Department, can they tell you when lunch drop-off is so you get there an hour before that and chalk on the sidewalk a story or a game or a scavenger hunt or the library hours or leave bags or leave logs? Work within your city and county and partner with other libraries in your county. Regardless of your size, this is a good idea. And especially now more than ever. Now is the time to do the things we've always said we were going to do, right? Now is that time. This is the time to look for those partners and see how you can support them and how they can support you, especially within your city and your county. This shows to your government what an active, essential library service you are. Look at the ways we're supporting, look at the ways we're partnering, look at the ways we're helping. We talked about this before. If you do not know where your school lunch site is, if you do not know where the summer lunch sites are, now is the day to find out. Who are your after school and daycare providers? What are their plans? Do they have staged plans? And how do those stage plans fit with your stage plans? Okay, which is not to say you call them up and are like, hey, you've got 1,000 things going on, talk to me right now. But ask, see if they've posted them. Who do you already partner with? And what are they doing now? Some tips on that is that I really urge you to try to call people instead of emailing them, and to try more than once and to be gracious with them. As I said, you don't want to run up to their face and be like, you're going to tell me right now what you're doing. But say, I want to partner with you, I want to help with you. Using the library windows as a story walk, I see in the chat, I think that's also a good idea of what is in your windows. I've seen some people make I spies in their windows, in your physical building on the outside, things that encourage people not to linger, but as they're walking by, also dependent on where your library is located. I also think the other thing you want to consider now, is we talked about this in one of my small groups last time, there are people that are like, I want to make as few trips as possible. Even if they want to come out, they still say, I want to make as few trips as possible. So when you're saying, I'm taking something to the food site, I'm taking something to the grocery, I'm taking something to the drop-off site, you're saving them a trip, but you're still making the library a presence there, right? And so that, I think, is something we need to look at in a way we never have before. I was talking to the super rural people, and that could have always been a thing, right? Because even before the pandemic, if you lived out in the middle of nowhere, you'd be like, I want to make like one trip. I don't want to do this all the time. So that, now more than ever, if there's something where you can be at that site, if you can be where your partners are, you're saving them a trip. So I think that's part of it. Be gracious and flexible with any partners you already have or any partners you're looking to make, even if they are within your same government, because you want them to be gracious and flexible with you. And now we just about did it. I know that was a ton. That was like a vomit of information, which is why I was hoping you were like taking notes and getting ideas. I hope your brains are hope your brains are going, because now we're going to break into small group discussion. And all of these big topics that we talked about, the ones that you've already started to explore, the ones that I hopefully just gave you new ideas for, now you're going to dive into them in the small group setting. So Sam is going to come on to explain how we're going to break into groups. And get ready to talk, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Angie, as she taps her camera.
Yes,
All right,
I wanted to do that.
I have this set up, so we're going to use a feature in Zoom called Breakout Rooms. I think you will find the experience pretty straightforward. It went really smoothly last time. So I'm going to assign you randomly to one of 4 breakout rooms. Each room should be recorded. We'll come back together at 2:20. Angie, is that what you want? 3:20 rather? Okay, at 3:20. So you'll get put in your room automatically, and then when our time is up, you will also come automatically back to this big room where we will spend about 10 minutes and wrap up. So here we go. Godspeed, everyone.
It's going to be great.
So tell me about summer. Who wants to go first? What's something you've changed this year that you're excited about? Can I call on somebody? Is that cool? Emily, I'm going to call on you because you're in the top left.
Me, Emily? I don't know how to
Yeah, you, Emily.
All right. One thing that we're changing is right now we're doing curbside. I'm from Sioux Center.
Sioux Center,
We're
okay.
doing curbside right now, and typically, we do the logs and people come and get their prizes. We don't know if they're going to be in the library or not, and regardless, we want to limit exposure. So what we're doing instead is having a participation prize in the middle of the summer. Like we have just 1 week, I think it's like July 16 or 6, whatever. And then we have one at the end where they can come in and pick up their end of the year prize. So really, I don't think the minutes count as much this year. It's more like, if you do something, great, you get a prize.
Okay.
And that's just to limit the exposure.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it might work nicer because you less logs flying around and
Oops, got an unmuted.
oh yeah, sorry. My coworker just says that they get slips for the grand prize at the end.
Okay, so like a grand prize drawing.
Yeah. Based on the minutes. Sorry, we're still figuring this out.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of us feel like we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. Are you in one of the counties that is quote unquote reopening?
Yeah. Yeah.
What else are folks changing? What's new or different this summer? Does anyone want to chime in?
I'm in a closed county still.
Okay, who's this?
This is Jackie, or Jay Tracy, it says.
Okay.
We are doing a lot of online programming, but instead of doing like a long story time, we're doing like a 2-minute short video just to touch base so the kids can see our face. We are going to do...
and those will be online, I assume.
Yes. They're being posted on Facebook. We just launched our YouTube channel yesterday, so they can also go there. So what we'll do is they'll be unlisted until they post the link. Then after that, they'll be available on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
2 story times have just started going live this week. So we'll have both live and pre-recorded. Like I said, the pre-recorded are just short little bits. And there's one other thing I was going to mention, but I've lost track of it.
And so this is not all necessarily summer related, but some of your regular programming that you're gonna do, like a story time you might do year round, but you're gonna sort of incorporate some of that into summer as well.
It's going to continue into summer. We are adding, like I was gonna do a once upon a time story time with a craft.
Yeah.
I'm changing the crafts, so mostly they can be things done with paper at home.
Yeah.
So it's not something they need to come in and get because we don't know when we'll be able to touch base with them yet and give them things. We were going to do a traveling tales where we walked around a park. They changed that to she's going to do a podcast. so they can listen to it on their own. And she's going to give a suggested trail so people can go out and walk and do it on their own. Miss Laura suggested this morning that maybe around the block where our library is, put up different stations, like do 10 jumping jacks here, go down here and wiggle all your wiggles out. And it's something to change regularly so they can still come to the library. Even if we're limiting how many can come in, it could still be a library visit where there's something to do without maybe even going into the library if needed.
Would that be a podcast too then? So start this podcast when you leave the library door, kind of like a walking tour sort of thing?
I think it's just going to be signs. We haven't,
okay.
It literally just came up this morning, but I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But maybe like we're on a block, so maybe like a sign at all corners and maybe one in the middle or something like that. And so they can stop at the different stations. So if, like I said, we're not open at all yet, we're going to start pickups first, but even when we open, we're probably going to limit the amount of people. So if mom's running in to get a book, maybe they can stay outside with Big Brother and go to the corners and do the activities, just something to keep people engaged and let them come to the library without actually coming in.
Yeah. Are other folks doing story walk type ideas around, or is that something you've done before? Brenda, yeah, you want to unmute and tell us?
Well, I work at 2 different libraries. So I work at one in Nebraska and one in Iowa. And the one in Nebraska has a cool story walk idea that they're going to do for the summer, for summer reading. They're going to make it a choose your own adventure. And so the page is going to be like, you know, here's the story. And they said they're going to make it like 30 pages long, maybe. And it'll be like, if you choose A, go to KFC. If you choose B, go to the hardware store. And so then depending on where you'll go, it's like up and down like the main street.
Oh, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah. Gets people out and lots of moving around. Lots of businesses to expose to potential new traffic, to new partners, maybe. Very cool. What other kind of story walk or out and about type ideas are people thinking about that might be new or different for summer? Yeah, Kayla, please share.
We're planning on doing scavenger hunts. We're Dubuque County, so we have 5 library branches throughout the western half of Dubuque County and the small towns. So we're going to do a scavenger hunt, a townwide scavenger hunt in each town, and put up signs, partner with local businesses, put up signs in their windows, and then the kids will go to the different businesses and search for those signs, and there'll be some type of activity for each one. We're planning on doing a different theme for each town, so doing Harry Potter for one town and Percy Jackson for another town, and doing it like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there what other ideas or changes or new things or old things made new? What's on people's radar?
We're also going to start dial-up story time again, and then have special guests such as the mayor or police chief or that kind of thing. So my understanding is they'll have 5 options that will stay up like maybe a month or something like that. And that will start for summer.
Okay. Mary, I saw your hand too.
We are, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
This is always, I have to test. We were going to go with ISU Extension and Outreach and do some Kids in the Kitchen and some of their food and nutrition programs this year. And I've worked with one of the presenters or programmers, and what we're going to do is make up kits that can be delivered curbside to the people who register for the program. And so everybody will have their kit and they're ready I'm part of the adult summer reading program, but Kids in the Kitchen is for the kids. So we'll be doing all the program together in all of our own kitchens. So kind of virtual, but if we we're in a county that, you know, if we'll be lucky to have July 1st opening. So at least that's
Which
what I'm
library are you
forecasting.
in?
Yeah, in Dallas County.
Okay.
So I think that we're taking the presenter from Dallas County ISU Extension was really excited that we could marry the old in-person program to a virtual program.
Well,
So
I love the idea of, you know, kind of family involvement too. So instead of mom just dropping kid off at the library and going to run an errand while the kid learns a cooking task, you know, it's something that can be done together at home. People are in the kitchen all the time right now anyway. At least I feel like I'm in the kitchen all the time. I don't know if other people feel that way. Like, do I do anything but cook right now? But yeah, a nice together activity. That's really cool. You mentioned that you're on the adult services side of things. Are there other things? Let's talk a little bit about adult services. What are you planning? What are other people thinking for adult or family programming?
well, we had a really great craft night that started last September, and we're thinking about doing the same thing. You know, getting together the kit that they would have when they came, and everybody tuning in to the Zoom room and doing it together online. So, and then uploading it if you don't want to do it that time, you can always tune in later.
Yeah,
So,
so a little bit kind of a combination of synchronous
yes.
and asynchronous.
Yes, I've got to say that my book group does not want to meet in the Zoom room. They're really intimidated by being able, you know, we're in a group in a room when we discuss the book, but I think it's the whole thing about seeing yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't get it because we do it all the time, but it's just the virtual reality part of it. They don't want to do it.
You could do
So
like a masked singer version of book club maybe, where everyone, no, I'm just kidding. Let's talk virtual programming. So I'm assuming, maybe show of hands either via chat or on the screen here, is anyone still holding out for any in-person programming this year? Everyone I can see on the screen is shaking their head. Well, Emily is doing the sideways. So throw their hand up if you want to share what virtual programs are you planning. Kayla, go ahead.
I'm going to be doing different like clubs that they can sign up for at the beginning of the summer. And then we're planning on putting together like a brown bag craft type of thing that has all the materials for whatever club they sign up for. And then we're going to do a touch-free pickup for those bags. And then, so they'll be able to take the craft supplies home, and then once a week, we'll have a live program on Zoom where we'll do the craft and activities together. So I'm going to do one that's fairy tales, and so we're going to tell or read a fairy tale each week, and then there'll be a craft that goes with it and some type of activity that goes with it. I'm going to do one that's Greek mythology, so one of the myths every week the same way, and I'm going to do one that's Norse mythology as well, and possibly one that's like world mythology.
So related to the summer reading theme for the year.
To go along with the summer reading theme, so that they can sign up at the beginning of the
which
summer.
club they want to be part of. So I'm going to be part of the Greek club.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the way it'll work. So they can sign up for whichever ones they want. They can sign up for all four if they want. And I'll probably do like Monday will be fairy tales, Tuesday I'll be Greek, Wednesday I'll be Norse, Thursday I'll be world, that type of thing. So that's the main thing I'm planning on doing. Then there'll be a couple other similar ones that we're doing where they'll have some type of craft they can pick up with a touch-free pickup, and then we'll have the program.
Yeah. I love in the chat, I don't know if you all can see it, Kelsey has shared about a kids crochet club, which I think is adorable. That's excited that they're into the virtual meeting, so that's really fun. And an RPG group, so that's really cool. Lots of good ideas for kids there. Joan is sharing too in the chat, choosing not to have virtual performers due to leaving out the many kids who do not have internet access. And I think that's something you do want to definitely consider before you do a big event, is how you can maybe make it available in some way, shape, or form to people without a device. So maybe it's, someone said, I think I read the only money that Hollywood made last month was at the only remaining drive-in movie theater in the US, which is somewhere in Florida. So maybe like a drive-in performers kind of thing. I don't know what that would look like. But yeah, kids without access to technology, but maybe something like Kayla is suggesting, where you could still engage with the activity, without technology, come to the library, pick up the bag kind of thing. We've got about 5 minutes. What do you want to talk about? Who's got a burning question that they want some feedback on? Brenda, what's your question?
I have a question for Mary as far as what kind of craft did you do for your craft night?
Let's see, Mary, you're still muted right now. Oops. Okay.
Okay. Craft nights. We actually subcontracted out to another library director who was having a very successful craft night at her library about 10 miles away. And I said, could you come over to my library and do that too, one night a month? And she did the same craft. I could probably send you, Brenda Van Wert, what is your email? And I can send you all the ideas of, they did gnomes in March. They did string art in February of a heart. They've done Be Thankful, a sign where you had a wooden sign, and the thankful or Be Thankful was from a cricket that you had pasted on, and you painted the background. Very simple but attractive crafts that you would want to hang around your house. So it's been very, very successful, and I was very sad that we had to cease and desist. So I made the suggestion, like, let's just make up kits for the March one that were mason jars that you would paint on and had flowers. So
I love the partnership element there too, that you're not feeling like you have to go it alone, but there's someone 10 miles up the road that's doing something really cool, and so you can tag on with them. I know in our session with smaller libraries last hour, someone said, I'm close to Iowa City and they're doing this and I don't want to duplicate anything. And so I do encourage you to reach out to the libraries in the area too and say, hey, we're thinking of doing this. Would you want to promote it in your community as well? Or what do you have going on that we can cross promote here, kind of thing, just because families are just so desperate for content and ideas and things to do, whatever that looks like. Someone else has in the chat that they are going to do some airing of their programming on local TV. So that's another great way to partner. That's Robin and Spencer. I think the question in chat, no library represented planning on doing any in-person programming. Can you raise your hand if you do have definitive in-person programming planned, or what that looks like for you right now? Some folks still saying up in the air.
The only thing that we have planned is we usually have a kids fest that is our kickoff, and we've rescheduled it for a finale, but it may go by the wayside depending on if we can get together or not.
Yeah. So basically, at this point, no one is planning for anything in person. Tough, but yeah, I mean, it is so much more important to be safe than sorry at this point. Okay, I'm showing 3:22, so we need to get back together with our big group. So I am going to do that, and just give me 1 minute. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your ideas.
Last time I tried, and I think it will probably work this time too, if you do have a microphone, it's sometimes really hard with this many people to sort of break in when somebody is talking or to answer some of the questions. So if you would like to unmute your microphone, if you don't have a whole lot of background noise, please feel free to unmute, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you to actually talk. I will also try to keep an eye on chat. Let me get that up here so that I remember. And see what's going on there. So if you don't have a microphone, feel free to use chat, and I'll try to let everybody know what we're talking about there. So my job here is basically to facilitate whatever it is you guys want to talk about. So the first question that I sort of start with, unless somebody's got something really specific they want to do, is what of the things that Angie just talked about really resonated with you? Did you get some new ideas, something you want to try, something that you went, oh yes, of course, now that makes sense? What are some of the things that you heard that really resonated?
Hi, Becky. Hi, it's Janelle.
Hi, Janelle.
I got a little bit of assurance, because I would say, because I think we're limited on being able to do a lot of online things. We're not doing the online story times online. And just hearing that assurance from someone, it's okay, because everybody understands that not everybody has access to this technology. And that was one of our things. I'm like, but I know these families don't, and I know Sarah and Sam, they don't have that at their house, you know that already. So I'm like, no, we can't do that. So just hearing kind of another person say it out loud that it's okay was very reassuring. That, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I could put something on the city's water bill. So I'm trying to, I'm brainstorming in my head. I'm like, what can we do with the water bill? Because they do have that capability.
Yay. All right, good. Anybody else?
My thing I've been working on is the outreach. Going to the food pickup site and playing with stomp rockets or something.
Oh, fun.
Something that I can do while they're there picking up food.
I like the activity thing. I don't think I've heard that before. I mean, a lot of people have talked about, sticking a bag or a bookmark or something in the lunch bag, or, providing a craft kit to go with, but actually doing something while they're out there waiting in line or whatever. That's a great idea. I love that.
It may look a little different than my usual stomp rocket stuff, because we got to maintain some distance, but if I go to a park and start shooting off stomp rockets, I get a crowd in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, we're changing the way we do things, that's for sure. But I love the outreach idea. I think that's great. Other ideas that really resonated with you guys or triggered something else?
Well, something that occurred to me, they talked about the Meals on Wheels program, and we have a homebound delivery program for people that are seniors and can't drive. But it might be a good idea for us to talk with the folks that are delivering meals to, first of all, promote that program. And second of all, maybe we can work together with them to expand our reach with delivery of materials through them in some way.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. All right, other ideas that triggered something for some of you.
I think, Becky, also one of the things that we've been discussing is we have no idea what's going to happen. We're just starting to reopen things in our county. We have pretty low numbers, but what's going to change? So, of course, what goes through, are we just doomed to not have summer reading? But I think just putting it in a different frame, and I really like the idea of just literally having a pick up and go and not worrying so much about participation results, just thinking about participation. Hey, you're here, have a bag of stuff, and here's some books. You know, just thinking about that and not being focused on, did you get 10 hours in for your prize and things like that. Just really, it's a whole new thought process that we just have to get our mind ready to accept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Something
we've
that-
always been focused on that. Go ahead.
Oh, well, something that came out of what you just said, something that I think we all pay very close attention to is how we count things. We always count number of attendees, we count number of programs. It's just very important to myself and the people that I work with. And we're going to have to make some changes this summer and be okay with that. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, are there going to be from the state library some parameters around online programs and how you treat that and how you count the people that attend? It would be really helpful to have very clear guidance on that.
I agree. That's a really good point.
All right, let me write that one down. My guess is, and I'm not officially speaking for the state library here, since in terms of accreditation, the only thing we ask is, did you do a program? We don't care what your numbers are. We've never cared what your numbers are. So for us, again, not speaking officially on behalf of the state library, but for us, I believe the important thing is how you guys count. So when you go to look at your numbers, you know, you want to compare them from last year to this year to next year, you know, make sure you document, you know, this was a weird year, so here's what we're counting this year. And you may never go back to the same way of counting that you did in the past. I hear what you're saying though about getting guidance, but at this point, unless you're comparing with each other, doesn't really matter. You know, if somebody wants to count every person who logged on to the Facebook Live or every comment that you had, I mean, what an interesting thing to see, you know, from week to week. How many people commented on our Facebook Live program from this week to next week to next week? That tells you something, but you know, at the state library, I don't really care.
Well, and it's not so much about even the state library, but figuring out a uniformity to how we count that. But the other piece that for at least for our library, having events where we can say we had a lot of people is also an important thing to share with our city leadership.
That's true.
And, you know, they're just looking at, oh, you had a program where you had 300 people. That must mean that people value you. And that's going to look really different this summer. And people that maybe don't work in libraries that make decisions about libraries, I think we just have to figure out how we communicate what we're doing differently.
That's a really good point. Go ahead, Phyllis.
We started a spreadsheet and we're keeping track because I think the state did say on the library talk they wanted us to only do live views. Like I'm doing a Facebook Live story time once a week. And so they said live views only, which is like usually 10, 15 people, but then I get like 10 shares after the story time's over and it says there were 440 views. And so we're just keeping track of all of that on a spreadsheet. So when we share it with the library board and city council, we can show that it actually, you know, reached a lot of people. Because if you go by just Facebook Live views, it looks like I'm only reaching 10 to 15 people.
Yeah.
But I go to the grocery store and everybody's like, oh, I saw you on doing story time with the chickens the other day.
I think that's a great idea, keeping track of all of those. And it goes back to what you said earlier about your funders. And that is, you know, yes, we had, you know, this many comments and we had this many views and we had this many that saw it afterwards and this many logged in at the same time. And so all of those numbers together give a much better picture to those funders. I think that's a really good point.
And my mother has the most number of people that comment on her whenever she shares everything that the library does, my library. And I tell you, her people will share and comment, and I'm like, can I count her stats?
Right. All right, anybody else want to comment on that? Otherwise, I've got a few things that I will throw out to kind of get some discussion here.
We are making a decal that is proud sponsor of summer reading, and we're going to send it to all of the people who've supported us. And then we're going to turn that into a scavenger hunt for families that they can go find the decals on all the different places.
What a brilliant idea. You're driving people to those businesses.
Uh-huh.
Man, I love that.
So that was kind of our brainchild this week. So
I like that. That's a really great one. All right, I'm going to throw out one thing here, and that it's one that I've done. Janelle, you've heard this one before. What are the things that you have changed? You've all been doing this for 2 months now, and I know we changed day by day in those early couple of weeks. But what are the things that you've changed in the way you do things that you want to keep for the future? You went, oh my gosh, why haven't we been doing this forever? You know, what are some of the good ideas that you came up with? I really like hearing those kinds of things. So anybody got things that you know you want to keep doing now that we've learned how to do something a little differently?
I'm going to turn all of my STEM things into a s'more newsletter for the summer with a list of things that they can do. So rather than having them come in and doing experiments, it's all things that they can do from home on a s'more newsletter. I can put video links in there and all kinds of cool stuff. And then I can link it right into our summer reading page.
Wonderful.
This is Suzanne from Perry. I'm with Misty. We're sharing a computer here, but we've been doing online story times, and actually it's been really fun, and I've never done that before. So I think even after the summer reading is over, we will probably continue to do some kind of online activity or story time because we've just enjoyed it.
Great.
Just to go along with that, I think it's interesting. We've all maybe ran into the how do we get working parents to come to the library and to, you know, how do we work with their schedules, and to continue to maybe have an online presence is maybe going to be really useful for those working parents.
That is a great one, because that's, I mean, I was a children's librarian for 10 years, and that's always the thing. They say, you know, we can't come during the day. You got to have them at night. You have it at night and nobody shows because they're exhausted. They worked all day. They just did, you know, fed the kids supper and had to do, you know, the homework and everything else. They're not coming at night. This is a really good way. I love that as an answer to that question. All right, anybody else? Things that you've learned that you'd like to take forward into the future? All right, go ahead, Misty, or Suzanne, whoever.
It's Misty this time.
Okay.
I just wanted to, again, give a shout out to the State Library, because since we've had to do all this stuff online, the new website, the Concrete 5 website, has been so much more easier and friendly and just perfect to use for this particular case. It's just been fabulous, and I've been able to add so much more programs and statistics and just like ways to get to what we want them to see easier. And so I'm just grateful that we have the Concrete 5 website now.
That's great. I'm glad you do. And I apologize on behalf of the State Library for those of you who have not gotten your site yet, especially now that you hear how wonderful it is and how useful it's been.
Sorry. It's fabulous.
I'm glad. I'm really glad that that's working for you. That's a great, and we're glad that that we were able to at least get some of them done. So at least a few people have been able to do that. All right, I've got another question then. It looks like we've got, a couple, 3-4 minutes yet. The first one I want to throw out is, are you finding, one of the things Angie talked about was partnerships. Are you finding new people to partner with, or are you able to strengthen relationships that you maybe had in the past that sort of weren't working exactly well? Who are some of those new ones, or how have you been able to sort of work with people that you've worked with before in new ways? And then once we sort of finish through that, if there's anything else that somebody would like to sort of throw out or ask a question before we head back into the main room.
One of the relationships that we had begun developing this winter actually was with our county conservation. group, and they had done a couple of monthly displays. Oh, Rebecca has her kitty. A couple of displays. They have a snowy white owl. They did a display, and we created a learning kind of action display, and then of course we did just a couple of animals, and then this happened. And so that's one of the things that we've been sharing each other's posts on Facebook, and they do a lot of live events because their nature center is closed completely to the public, and so they've been doing a lot of live events, just trying to, this is what we would normally be doing at the nature center kind of things. And that's one of the things that we've been talking to them about. When you said when someone mentioned story walks, that's what we have, a really beautiful trail system, and that's one of the things that we were thinking, oh, I wonder if we could do something like that on one of the trails and figure out and get that to work. So I'm really excited about that being a potential thing for this summer.
Good. Thanks, Janelle. Other partnerships? Certainly somebody mentioned teachers. And I know, we struggle with that. It seems really easy and obvious to say, partner with your schools, but I know there are communities where that's really tough. Either you don't have a school, or you have a principal or a librarian or the teachers who don't really care about partnering. I know there are people who have worked for years. Maybe this is the time to reach out again, and maybe you'll be able to break through that wall of being able to partner with the schools. Anybody have other partnership opportunities that you've discovered?
I've been able to do some Zoom classes with the teachers sharing digital resources, and then we recorded that, and then they can share it around their schools.
Oh, I like that.
Two of our librarians here are actually doing weekly radio shows with the community radio here in Ames as well. So it's they're very good at it.
That's fun. I like that. All right, well, I'm assuming we're going to get a message in a second here that we're going to be heading back into the main room. Any other last minute sort of questions or issues that you want to sort of bring up? Because again, I'm taking notes. The chat will be shared. I did remember to record, presumably everybody else did, and so you'll be able to see the other sessions that you were not participating in. So those will all be out there, as well as the session that we did at 1 o'clock. All of that will be out as well. Anything else? Well, I ran out of, well, not technically ran out of questions, but challenges that I'm sure we're going to get flipped back in here really, really soon. So I don't want to jump off into anything, but other great ideas that you had or staff members had. I love the having people put the book characters in their windows. I think that's really fun. And I don't know if Danielle is in this one from Dubuque. She had tried to get started asking folks to post their favorite book in their window and having people go around town. I think Dubuque might have been just a little too big to have that work really well, but small towns, that would be really fun. We just did big hearts, and then literally I just stuck a copy of the book up in the thing that was my favorite title. I think that would be a fun one to do in smaller towns. Oh, and that reminds me, in the last session, one of the librarians said that she has been working with her Y, and obviously not everybody has a Y in town. This was a smaller town though that had one, and doing things jointly with them. They were doing sort of a daily or a weekly, I think, session where he was doing a workout online, and then she had some kind of a short story hour craft idea kind of thing, and they were doing that together. Didn't take much time, but something that they could sort of both be working on the same thing at the same time.
I think the hardest thing right now is just all of the uncertainty. Like, I'm in one of the 22 counties that's still shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And we have like a phase plan of what it'll look like as we slowly reopen. And I can't offer probably in-person, you can probably hear my cat at that point, we're not going to probably offer in-person programming until we're back to like normal operations, which is our level 1. And so we have to continue doing stuff that's either a drop-off type of program or something until we open. And so we're getting unsure of what level will we be at different parts of the summer.
Yeah, I think uncertainty is it. We've got about 5 seconds before we head back in. Thanks, everybody.
And it looks like there's about 34 of us in the room right now. So that seems about right. And if you want to open up the chat, you can say, hey, where you're from in the chat. And I am asking if when you come on and say hello, if you say what your library is, just so we know where you're at. So first, I guess I want to start with what is there that you want to talk about? Is there something you want to ask the group about? Is there something you want to, first of all, I'm sorry, I also have to tell you, we were talking last time about how into carrots I am. And so I bought these carrots from the farmer's market, and it's the largest carrot I've ever. We bought 5 pounds of carrots, my husband and I, and he was like, they cheated us on carrots. And then literally this is, okay, and it's right here by me. So at any rate, okay, so is there anything you guys want to start off with? Is there something that is really you want to ask the group about? Is there something that I'm talked about that you're kind of on the fence about? I know there's been a lot of talk about the software, who's using what. I don't know if that's a thing you want to talk about here, if you already have plans, if there's something you feel awkward about. You can raise your hand. Which you do by going to your name. You can raise your hand if you see those 3 dots by there, or, oh no, that's a different thing. I did a different thing. Or you can just say in the chat, call on me, and I'll call on you. I know, I was surprised at how many people. So how many of you are using software? Annie, do you want to talk about it? I saw you raise your hand.
I can. I don't have a lot to say about it. We have Beanstack. This is our 2nd year, but last year we got it at the last minute. I'm planning to use it, but not have for it to be sort of a sideline, because I'm not planning on focusing on minute tracking or reading tracking too much this summer. So I don't have a lot to say.
And Katie, it looks like she says she just started Beanstack too. Is anybody, so Melissa said, what platforms is everyone using with teens? I think, is anybody using something different? I think you can use the same software, you can just design it, I think, for ages. So we've been using Google for registration. We do not plan on changing. So mostly it looks like Beanstack. Yeah, I really was encouraging in the last chat, you know, not to super focus on tracking. I think that takes back to the thing we said in the discussion. I'd like to kind of, I encourage you to move away from the idea of completion. First of all, just because, as some of you know, I hate that, because when do you ever complete reading? Okay, you're done with reading. You've completed reading. No, you don't complete reading. So to move away from completion as a thought, I think. Google Forms for escape rooms. Mallory says, I would like to hear some thoughts on how to keep things like giving away books safe and low contact. Yeah, I think shut up. No, I think you got to tell them shut up. You get what you get, you don't throw a fit. No, just kidding. I've been telling everybody that my kind of opinion, and I would like to hear from you guys too, is to pick maybe like 4 books, and then that's just the book. And if they say, I don't want this, you say, great, have a great summer, bye. Yeah. A blind bag surprise, yeah. I think that is an idea too, but the surprise says this is the book for all 7 to 12-year-olds. I think also too, I think it is what it is, and I wish it weren't this way, but I think if you make like 4 selections, and the selections are Dogman and Harry Potter, I mean, you know, I think if you make some selections and they say, I hate that, then you say, sorry, have a great day. I definitely encourage everybody to put up signs that say take the one you touch. I think that's really important. Or even to staple that to the bag and say, whatever is in here is a great fun thing, and you just take the way you touch. You just take the one home, because I don't have Clorox wipes to provide for you. Yeah, Mallory, also you could think about doing a list, like you print them all up on a list. The first year, the library that I worked at, the first year we gave them books, I was a crazy fool, and I made a whole list, like, so they got like a menu, and then the kid said, I want that one, and I crossed it off, and they got that book. And then the next kid, it was already crossed off, so they said, I want that one, and I crossed it off and gave them that book. So you could do it like a menu style. That was a crazy idea that I quickly changed, but I think that's a possibility. You could take an inventory of what you have and say, here are the 10 books we're giving out today for 4th grade, and you get to pick one. And if you don't like any of these, have a great day, bud. Live your truth. Or whatever. So Mallory's comment, I'm repeating a lot of by this because since it's recording and I want people to hear it. So like, not because I don't think you guys can read. That's why I'm repeating a lot of these. Mallory said, we already bought books and don't have very many of a given book. I just want to make sure they actually get something to read. That was my answer to that. You guys can unmute, by the way, also if you want to chat in here. As you see, I forced Annie to unmute. You can unmute if you have some question. What's something you changed already that you're like, this is gonna be different? Emily says, North Liberty is passing out take-home kits with activities from our town summer lunch and fun program. We will do one Zoom program with the activities, so if the kids can access the internet, they can do it with us. Otherwise, there will be instructions and kits. I love that. I love that combination. Because I think one of the things some of you have heard me say in the other sessions is like, I watch cooking videos I have no intention of ever doing. I don't know about you guys, but I watch like craft videos I have no intention of ever doing. So I think even that of saying like, here's the craft, you might not even do it, but you can watch me do it. I think that is a possibility. Another Emily says, we're going with gift certificates that will be mailed for local restaurants and a movie theater. I'm going to discuss with the food bank about giving away books. I think that's a big possibility. Sonia says, we're planning to do mailings so the participants have weekly something in the mail to look forward to. These will include ideas for projects and challenges. I've seen that from other libraries. I like that idea too. And I think that every week you could include something that's not just like a project and a challenge, but some information like the food bank hours or some follow-up information. If you saw the newsletter I sent, if you saw the POC newsletter, my friend Flan, they're a librarian in Philadelphia, and they're the ones that are doing the video where they cook something. They make a video cooking something that uses the food from the food box. So whatever is in the free food box that week, they make a recipe from that. So I think now is really a summer to kind of connect those things. Having the teens do work in content creation. Teens are still looking for ways to volunteer. Word. Yep. We're posting challenges like read a cookbook or a video or poetry books. We may post a different challenge every week. Like the idea of adding something Meals on Wheels. I agree. Because I've heard some people say, we're going to go to the senior centers. Bro, the senior centers do not want you to come, okay? They're trying to keep everybody out, okay? They don't want people to come. But if somebody's already going there, and not even just the care centers, but like Meals on Wheels or like who in your, like if somebody's already going there, you don't have to worry about, can I send stuff? So that is a possibility. Yes, we decided we're going to go totally virtual because we're unsure we're going to be or if we're going to be open. We're doing videos of craft activities, performances, and story time. I'm feeling we might want to incorporate more of what you were speaking about, but most of what we're trying to do right now is digital. And again, I don't think, I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying it's not the solution. What we're asking is just that you think of like other, just now's the time to start thinking about it. This is the throw the spaghetti at the wall. Like, we only connected with 20 people that way. Great. That's 20 people you wouldn't have connected with if you hadn't called the school lunch site. So does anybody want to unmute? I know many of you in here, so I'm just going to start unmuting you and making you talk. So Watch out. I know a lot of you in this group. I see many familiar faces. Oh, a familiar story. Sonia says she doesn't have a mic. That's true, actually, because I believe she would unmute. I know Sonia, and I believe she would unmute. I believe that. Great. Keta, unmute.
Okay, are you unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I gotta take off my headphones too. Okay, my concern is I'm the library director and we have no clue when we're opening to the public. But from my understanding, once we do open to the public, we have to limit how many people are coming into the building, constantly cleaning and all of this. I love all these ideas that you guys are suggesting. My concern is a lot of these new ideas are new to the staff. And let's face it, my staff is an older staff. They're used to routine, not change. So they are trying to figure out all these very interactive things that we can take outside the building to provide activities. But then my staff is also trying, I'm going to say assuming, cleaning constantly for germs and watching how many people are coming into the building. And there's a whole level of pulling materials so they don't touch the books and all of this. So I'm concerned about how to try to do all this cool stuff and not kill my staff. My staff is older. There's several of us, including myself, who probably shouldn't even be in the library building when public is there. Just trying to manage these fun, cool activities, which I love every single one of them, but also managing how many people are coming in and out, and our kids trying to come in if we do choose to limit kids, just little things like that. Plus, try to keep the building clean when I only have 10 staff members in the building at one time. And most of those are part-time staff members who are coming and going, so they're not even consistently from our opening hours. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think it's a really common concern. And I think the first thing I would say, and I think everybody here would agree, is you do what you can and the rest of it you let go. So like none of this should be like this is start at all. But one thing I would encourage, the way I would encourage your staff to think about it is that what you're really trying to do is make it go as easy as possible on them. Because it can't be summer like it always has been summer. So I think if you say to them instead, I know this is different, but the difference is to make it easier. And the difference is just put the packs out in the lobby, and you don't care if a kid comes and takes 10 of them, okay? It's over. If the packs cost us $1 to make, we're just gonna let them go out the door. So I think framing it as instead of this is one more new thing you have to do is instead I'm trying to take something off of you.
Yes. And that's how I view it as, but I also know my staff members, and it is an extra stress, especially right now when my children's librarian chose to do unemployment. So I don't even have that component working right now, so that makes it just a little bit more stressful.
And I think the other thing too, on behalf of the state library's literal only requirement is that you have a summer reading program. We have literally no other requirement. We don't care how many kids sign up for it. We don't care how many kids complete it. Literal only requirement is that you have a summer reading program. And as with everything else, we're being generous with that this year. So if a library said we couldn't have a summer reading program, we wouldn't be like, oh, well, too bad. Now your library's not certified anymore. Sorry. So I think that, and I think you should do whatever of this is easiest. The idea there's so many of these things. We're not throwing all of these things for you to do. We're saying whatever sounds the easiest and less stress for you, ba-bang. If it's to go one time to the food bank, that's it. That's it. That's done. That's over. It's the last thing. We're not worried about it again.
And I do agree with you, but it's hard when you got outside pressure.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I think the outside pressure there then you begin to refocus on what I was saying earlier of like, these are the ways we're supporting instead of creating. So that, do other people want to say things other than just me chiming in for Keta? Where are you located? Sorry.
I'm trying to, I have a 9-year-old sitting right next to me, so I'm trying to mute so we don't have background noise. I am from Webster City. It's Kendall Young Library.
Okay. Other thoughts for Keta in Webster City? I think I got that right. Rachel says, I would take advantage of what other people have created. The packets Angie shared last year. The packets that I shared are in the PowerPoint. They're linked. They were linked on that page, on the page that said grab and go. They're on the State Library summer reading page. So when you get the PowerPoint, they're linked on that slide. They were a component of last year's summer library trainings that we did. My first set of trainings, believe it or not. But a day gone by. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to get kicked back to the main room. So now is your last minute chances to say anything just in our room. Because in a couple of minutes, Sam is going to automatically kick us back to the big group. So now's your last chance to say something. Somebody in the chat, at the very least, be encouraging to Keta and give her some advice that she can do this and it's going to be okay. So it's not just me saying it.
You can do it, Keta.
Yes.
Hang in there. I think we're all in the same boat. So it's going to be strange and weird for everyone.
That's a perfect way to phrase it too. And not just for the librarians, but the patrons. It's going to be weird and different for patrons too, not just the staff. So it's everybody collectively. Go, Rosie, go.
Yeah, so what I was going to say was you were talking about, meeting people where they're at. So what we have been doing at Ames Public Library is to give away books to people who are coming in to pick up lunches. And we have these books individually bagged, and we've separated them out into like pre-K, K1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and then middle and high school. So we've already pre-bagged them, and we've got labels on them. So when they come to pick up their lunches, we just ask them what book they want, what level they want, and we give them the books right away.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think that makes it be like a present.
Right, exactly.
And everybody likes a everybody likes a present. Like if you put a sticker on the front of the bag, you're like, here's your surprise book. Then they're like, I love this book on Martin Luther King. It's so exciting. Like, everybody wants to get a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would always say too, there's something else in there. Like we would put like a sticker or a coloring page in there, and they'd be like, I got a whole prize. So that also stops them from throwing a fit about it if it feels like a reward. Okay, so we're about to get thrown back into the other room. You won't have any choice about it. Way to go, team room. It was great. I don't know what the other rooms reported on, but you're gonna hear that shortly in a minute. We'll all give a brief report. And when you watch this, you'll be able to click on each room's link and watch theirs, which again, is why I read so much of our chat out, where I look like a weirdo. It's fine. Okay, fingers crossed. It's gonna work. In a minute or two, we're gonna get a note on the board that says, you're being sent back to the main room. Does anybody?
What I was going to say.
Hit it.
Just, I am not doing individual small prizes for everybody this year, but I did think it was important to continue our big drawing prizes, at least 2 or, not as many as we normally do, just to give the kids a little bit of consistency, some of that normalcy, because so many things have changed for them, and I thought it was really important that we still kind of do some things the same, and, yes, it'll be much easier for them to get tickets to win those prizes this year. But yeah, just to give a little bit more consistency for them, I think is.
And also that's a one low contact thing. So it's not like every week, it can still be, you're still maintaining that low contact one take and go thing instead of every week you come in and we do a drawing and every day you come in and we do a drawing and blah, 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 blah. So that is also, I think, use the post office. God knows we need to do that. Libraries need the post office. that's a just general rule for your life. Just use the post office. Okay, here we go. See everybody in there. See you there.
Off with the conversation. So there we go. All right. Thoughts, concerns, ideas, questions. This is your time to share them. Mention them. Not all at once. How many of you have your summer reading plans laid out? Anybody? And if you do, tell us what they are. A lot of oh, Angie, I saw your hand go up. Tell us what you're planning to do.
Oh, sure. So I am as the Iowa City Public Library, and we are planning on going completely virtual this summer with our reading logs and our programs. Actually, our reading logs are going to be mailed to every household in the Iowa city limits and rural Johnson County. Also Hills and Lone Tree, which are contracting cities. So that will reach about 56,000 people. And those are set to hit homes on June 1st. So in a short span, we switched everything around, and I'm actually feeling okay. Not really. Just because our programs are planned. We know that the reading logs are going out. We're encouraging people either to mail them back in or to use our software to log their books online. So we're keeping it really, really simple. We're not doing any prizes, just going to give away grand prizes, and yeah. So
yeah, I think if there's one takeaway from all of this, I don't recall Angie saying this word, but simple. No, simplify what you're planning to do. Summer reading's not going to look exactly like it has in the past, but in many ways that could be a good thing.
And that's what I told my staff. They were, they still wanted to do the prizes, and they still wanted to have kids. And we're not even open right now. And we're in one of the counties that, with the university hospital, probably won't open till the very, very end. So it's not even looking like a possibility for us to open by August. We're not doing curbside or any services right now. So we're,
Stacy, did you want to say something?
I think, and maybe this is a good place to get some.
And you're really quiet, so if you can talk a little louder.
Yep, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Just talk louder.
I'm gonna take my headphones out.
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, that works.
Okay. So my biggest concern is that we receive funding to do some of our summer reading program, and included in that is always that we give, like, one of the grand prizes is a book to give away, and I purchased hundreds of books to give away. The kids are always been able to choose their book. So if I don't have prizes for everything else, which probably is okay, we're going to do Read Squared, and they can get badges along the way. If part of my funding is intentional for giving them free books, do I still do the free books? Do I give them a coupon for getting books later? Do I pick a book for them without really knowing what they want?
I think any of those options could work. And the other thing would be to partner with those school giveaways. I know Suzanne from Perry Library is in the session, but I don't think she's in our small group here. But I know Perry's been doing that they have an agreement with the school that has the lunch pickups for kids, and they have books available as pickup as well at that location. So that might be an option where the books would be offered for any of those kids, not just the ones who participated in summer reading. I think the other ideas you mentioned all could work, like the coupon, bring this back to us when we reopen on a regular basis and get your book, or just have it as a curbside that they call ahead and say, this is Tommy Jackson, I'm planning to come get my book. Okay, Tommy, we'll have it in a bag sitting out on a table for you. I think, as I told the group in the last session that we did with the smaller libraries, anything you plan to do with summer reading has to coordinate with whatever your director, and in some cases that might be you, what your director, your board, your library is planning for your reopening. So you've got to figure out what that is first. So if your reopening says we're not having a meeting room, if your reopening says we're limiting the area within our library only to our lobby and front entrance, that's going to affect what you might be thinking of doing for summer reading. So make sure you figure out what your overall reopening plans are and make your plans based upon that. Yeah, Kathy from Huxley is saying they're doing the books with meals as well.
Are you guys who are doing the books with meals where are you getting your books? Because I'm assuming it's not for circulation, it's for to keep. Perfect.
Well, the ones that we give away, we're going to the food pantries and we'll be giving away weeded books or donated books. The book sale had to be canceled, so I have a lot of extra books, so we're going to be giving those away.
I think we do too.
Yeah, prizes, I usually go and buy new books or from Half Price Bookstore, so that's a little bit different. But maybe it doesn't have to be.
I have heard a lot of librarians talking about Scholastic, that Scholastic has some very good deals right now. I think just only through the end of this month, though, so that's tomorrow. They have 50 books for $50. Then I think 100 books or 150 books for $150. So they had different packages, but it's $1 a book. I'm going to channel Mandy Easter here. Just be careful about giving away your withdrawn books, because as you know, with book sales, you can't just give away your withdrawn materials to private individuals or organizations. Now you're going to ask, well, how is that any different than giving away prize books to private individuals? And I think the difference has to do with with your prizes, you're typically giving them away to everybody or anybody who wants to come. So if you're doing that with your withdrawn books, maybe you could get by with that. But I would just double check with Mandy Easter to have clarification about that.
I bet there could be a way where if they're given to your friends group or something like that, you could probably.
Yeah, with your withdrawn books, if you could have your friends group buy it for a what is deemed a fair price, which that might only be $5 for lock, stock, and barrel, then your friends can do whatever they want with those.
This is Adrienne from Sioux City. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I actually did look into that because the same thing happened to us where we couldn't, our book sale was canceled and we were weeding picture books like crazy. And Mandy did say we could give those out because we just look at them like a programming material as if you were to buy it. So it did not have to go through the friends group.
Okay. Yeah, and that's good. I would definitely, as I said, get clarification from Mandy about that, and it's good that you did that. One thing I was going to mention that I thought was an interesting idea, if you could get this done very, very soon, there was one small library in the earlier session who a few weeks ago issued a survey to her community and said, what do you need from the library for summer? And interestingly, an overwhelming number of the family members who responded, and she had a very good response rate, they said they wanted and needed gardening information and activities for the kids. And I'm not sure I would have thought of that, but so maybe I think this library may be considering putting together some little garden kits and having those as grab and go for families. The other thing she heard from them was that they wanted summer reading to extend as long as possible. And that was an interesting discussion because someone pointed out there's not going to be swimming lessons this summer, and there won't be any t-ball either. And for the first time ever, the library is not going to be in competition with t-ball and swimming. So, the families want something to do. So I don't know how many of you have talked about how long you're going to do summer reading, but have you modified what the length of time, either shorter or longer?
We said too, obviously schools haven't been in session for almost 2 months now. It's not the time
to make a shorter program. If anything, we want to encourage more reading.
Yeah. Liz is doing normal, she says. So anybody else, do you have definitive plans? I know a few of you put that in the chat, or that you want to share with us, or do any of you have major questions that you're debating, deliberating over? This is a great opportunity for you to ask those now. You're all so quiet. And I know I have librarians. I see these names here. I know many of you have excellent ideas. Rosalind, you had mentioned in the chat in the main session that your library is reading stories on the radio. Do you want to explain a little more about that, how you developed that, who's doing the reading, and what kinds of stories you're doing?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, the local radio, we approached them and asked if we could do that. Not everyone has access to the computer, by the way, so
Right.
what Heather does is she records, and she's finding that it's kind of hard to find domain free, copyright free short stories or excerpts, but she says she can do excerpts from stories, and so she records herself doing that for about 5 to 8 minutes maybe, and then they play that twice a day, once a week. They thought once a week would work best. So,
Nice.
yeah.
And have you had any response yet to that?
No, I haven't. So I haven't heard whether it's working or not. But I just think that's just another thing that we can do. Today we had a special board meeting, and we were talking about how to reopen or when to reopen. And then I just feel like we started curbside delivery or pickup to this week, and we will continue doing that for a bit yet. And it's some sort of compromise between, opening up completely, because we've had questions about that, and still providing services. And of course, we are promoting, all online services that we offer.
Gary, I know that at your library, you started very early on after this all happened, a spring reading program, which was something you don't normally do. And you've had a pretty good response to it. Are you planning to implement aspects of that for your summer program? You're muted.
There we
you
go.
Yeah.
To figure out how to unmute myself. It's had an okay response. It's not huge. It's a little over 100 people, which for us is really small. Which I'm glad we still offered something. And it was really thrown together. So we won't continue it. Like, we'll stop it. May 15th is the end. And then our summer reading will start June 1st and go through the end of July, and that's usual for us. And then we usually have a bonus bingo in August anyway, which is like no big deal. It's just mostly activities and some reading, some non-reading things to do, and we'll probably still do that, except for it, there won't be any prizes for that probably this year. It'll just be for funsies. But we are doing pretty much entirely online this summer for summer reading. We will have a printable log, and we probably will take a few paper logs to like the free lunch locations and anywhere that we donate books where internet access might be more of an issue. And then we are doing just a couple of times, even if our library is not open, because we're not doing curbside right now for regular checkouts or anything. But we will have a few curbside activity bag pickups throughout the summer, and we will probably incorporate prize pickups through that same thing. It's very reduced prizes, no choices like usually there is. And I think I haven't come up with good wording yet, but I'll try to come up with, I think people will understand, and I'll try to come up with a way about, we're giving more books to the free lunches this year. We'll have your choices again sometime in the future. Please enjoy this or share it with a friend if you don't like it, kind of thing for this year. So So yeah.
Good. Jessica's asked if you're opening up, how are you approaching that? Jessica, I'll just comment quickly and then hear from the rest of you. The State Library did share a fairly long list of considerations on Monday, and if you haven't seen that, ask your director about that. If you're the director, make sure you look at that and share it with your board and possibly with your city administrator as well. So there are a lot of considerations. And next week, Becky McEwen, the district consultant and from Northwest District, and I will be leading the crisis conversation for the week about reopening. And I know some things that I've been talking yesterday in my office hours, that was the big topic, is what are the reopening plans? And there are a lot of things that I personally probably would recommend, and that would be limiting the space in your library that is accessible to the public, perhaps discouraging browsing by asking people to call in advance or place their holds online, and you have those available at the front desk, kind of like curbside, only modified so they can come into the library to pick it up, but that they're not going into the stacks and browsing and touching all the books and everything. Removing all of your soft seating so there's not places for people to sit and lounge and hang out for the day. Maybe opening for only an hour or two at a time and then closing so you can disinfect things. And then Allie just shared that information, Rosalind. Yeah, it's on the, and Jessica, it's on the state website. And other things would be having computers used by appointment only, and of course spacing your computers far enough apart or disconnecting some of them in between so that they're far enough apart for the social distancing, and then disinfecting after each use. One idea that one of my libraries from a tiny library had, and I think it's brilliant, she doesn't have a self-checkout, which you'd probably have to disinfect after every use, but she has a scanner on her desk that she uses at her cert desk, and she's going to move her scanner over farther away toward the public. She'll still be at the computer. The public will scan their own library card. So the scanner's here. The public can scan their own cards, scan all of their items. She'll be at the computer to make sure it's all checked out properly. It's completely no touch. So she won't have to disinfect the scanner because nobody's touching it. So I thought that was a really good compromise. So that's what she's planning to do. But anybody else? Ideas? Kathy, I know you're reopening Monday, I think, aren't you? Anybody else have ideas, plans, thoughts, questions about summer reading? Our time is almost up here. You're all so quiet.
This is my first summer reading as a director, and my first year as a director, and got hired in January.
Get through this, you can get through anything.
So it's really been trial by fire.
Has anyone heard or had thoughts about if they start school early? Because we go to the end of July usually for summer reading, but is it worth, hello, is it worth, she doesn't want to go back to school. She's bored though. So and if they're going to do that, then that's going to, is anybody thinking that we wouldn't go farther or create a longer program because they're going to come back? Or,
I know that colleges are already talking about doing no contact schooling in September, in the fall semester and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a future where that's going to happen necessarily, but I'm kind of fatalistic at being in one of the 22 counties at the moment. So.
Yeah, I think the July school start is speculative at best right now. And when they talk about that, I don't know if they mean resuming more online school or if they're really talking about normal back to school. All right, Samantha just told us it's time to go back, so I think you probably have an option to return to main session. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we're going to have a quick couple of minutes where everybody reports back, but as we mentioned, the other rooms are recorded so you can kind of view them. So, Sam, who moderated rooms this time?
Same folks.
Okay, so why don't you start? Tell us how your room went.
My room was good. We had pretty interested people. I think a lot of people just feeling so questioning. The big question that came up, or I think one big question that we kind of ended on, is anyone planning in-person programming? Like, full stop, what's happening? And we had one person who said, like, our big summer kickoff is currently a summer ending, and that's planned. But otherwise, we are planning. We didn't really have anyone who said, yes, we're definitely going to get together for the juggler on June 3, or whatever the case might be. But just kind of want to reassure people that if you're feeling like you're all alone and canceling your programs, you're not. Everyone is looking at virtual options right now. So that was kind of our last discussion. I know we're running short on time, so I'll end it there and hear what other folks are doing.
My room was very quiet. I don't think a whole lot of people have their plans made yet, which is why they came to this session, Angie. Iowa City did share, though, that they are mailing their reading logs to every household in the city as well as rural area and to the libraries that they contract with. And that's a lot of mailings going out, and they are not having their weekly kind of prizes. They're only having grand prizes. So I know, Angie, you talked about in that previously, or maybe that was in the last session, where you said you don't want people coming in every single week or multiple times a week to get a prize. You want to try to limit that. So I thought that was a good idea. And Rosalind Thompson from Knoxville was in our group, and she explained a little bit more about how they're doing the reading online on the radio. So that was interesting too, but still a lot of questions about what the plans actually will be. And as I reminded everybody, make sure you know what your reopening plans are, because your summer reading plans will have to fit in with that context.
I will jump in sort of on the end of that. Ours actually started with sort of the reassurance that nobody really knows what's going on, and it's okay to not know what's going on and be working on this, and ended with that sort of same uncertainty. You know, we really just don't know. So that was kind of where we started and ended as well. One of the really cool ideas that I wrote down that I want to share, and I think I'm taking notes, so I will put together a list of the brainstorming ideas that we had and sort of make sure that that's out and available. But one of my favorite ones was putting together decals of people who are considered library supporters, you know, whether it was businesses or whoever, and then they're going to be posted in all those businesses and the other places, and then they're going to have a scavenger hunt for where can you find those library supporters. And I thought that was a brilliant way. You're driving people to those businesses, they've supported you. It's fun for the town to do. I thought that was a really cool one. We talked a lot, or a little bit, I guess, about counting. And while we can say, you know, we don't care what your numbers are, you know, count them however you want, you know, make sure that you're looking at numbers that work for you. But the fact is, we have to give those numbers to other people in our communities, our funders, and we have to be able to prove our worth. And so finding ways to make that more uniform in terms of how we're counting those would be really beneficial for them as they're going back to their funders. So I think that was, I mean, we had a lot of ideas that we talked about, but those are two of the big ones.
So in ours, and so one thing I want to say too about the numbers that you take to funders, that's part of the reason I really urge you to think about shifting to points of contact. So I kind of talked about that before too, and I really urge you to think about ways that you can do that, to like shift, instead of saying we had 444 kids read 20 minutes a day, be like, we handed out 40 books to the food bank every week. So I think, and I think that covers the thing that we talked about in ours. A big thing that came up in ours was, how do we get staff, if we have staff that are feeling more nervous about some of these changes, how do we get them in? And I think that selling that idea that this is something that we're trying to do to make less work. We're not trying to give them more work. We're not trying to kind of kind of do that. So I think that was a thing we talked about a lot, and also just reassuring staff that was feeling nervous about how do we add this on to opening and doing with everything else, to reassure them that this was not going to be, this determines everything. It's so huge. So to kind of try to scale that back was a thing that we talked about a lot. And taking advantage of resources that were already created, that was another thing we talked about in our group a lot. So yes, so touches, I think what is another thing? What's the word for it? ROI, no, what's not ROI? There's a word for it that they use all the time in like speak, your points of contact. Yeah, your points of contact. So, okay, we're running out of time. So I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Like I said, you'll be able to see everybody's. And these are some things I just want you to always keep in mind as we go forward. These are some good guiding questions, along with what Becky was saying about make sure you have your reopening plan in place. When you have that plan in place, that shapes everything else. And these are questions I want you to think of as guiding questions. Are you including as many people as possible? Who does this serve and how? What is your why? What is your why? Not your how, not your what. What is your why? What hurdles to access are here? How can we overcome them? How can, if we can't overcome them all, how can we reduce them? How can we take the hurdles from up here and bring them to down here? Do we have a wide enough variety of virtual programs and services to be an inclusive and equitable as possible? Are your videos captioned? Are you reading the same 5 books by the same 5 white people every week? Your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility do not go away because this has moved online. They are the same and even more important than ever before. Keep them in mind. If you are not captioning your videos, you are failing. But here's the deal. All you can ever do, I've been thinking so much of this in the terms of Frozen 2, which sucks compared to the first one, except for it's okay. We're going into the unknown. And then I thought, I don't even like that song. The song that I like from Frozen and the thing I want you to try every day is the only thing we can do is the next right thing. You can't do 20 right things from now. You don't know what 20 right things are. You don't know what it's going to look like in July. You don't know what it's going to look like in June. You can only do the next right thing. You can only do the next thing you can do. And that's really, I know it's frustrating. I know it's exhausting. I know it's scary. I feel all those same things too, but it's the only thing that we can do is the next right thing. And that's really what I want you to keep in mind. That's what we're saying about stopping and breathing and taking a moment to focus and be grateful that we can breathe. I wish that there were answers to all of this, but the fact is there aren't. So we just have to keep trying and we have to keep working together. So next week, the next crisis response conversation, the registration is open right now. It's on reopening and reopening concerns and ways we can address reopening. And especially for some of you, the week after, Annie from Sheldon, this one's especially for you. The crisis response conversation on this 13th is going to be about reaching out and connecting with your migrant and immigrant communities in this period. It's going to be from a librarian who does that volunteer work in her spare time. Please join us for that one, especially if you're in a larger town. Those communities are being hit particularly hard by this, and now more than ever, we need to show up for them. That's how we prove our essentialness. We show up when we're needed. Your district consultants have office hours. Please feel free to join them every week. I used to have office hours, but people kind of stopped coming, except Annie came, and that's where I got the idea for the migrant workshop. So instead, I'm bringing back the guided youth services conversations. Okay, so we're going to have topics like the one we had about teens, where Tomvi and Ben from Ames came on and explained Discord to us at the teens one, if you were at that. So I'll post the full schedule of those next week. And continued youth services, continued education. Please reach out, please stay in touch with us. I see you. I want you all to know that I see you. I see the work that you are doing. It is so valuable and it is so exhausting. So please take time to take care for yourself and recharge, and know that you might not have all the answers, but we're just going to keep doing the next right thing. I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful for this position and the chance to work with you and help you every day. It gives me something good to focus on when I need to stop and do my breathing. I believe in you. I believe that you will figure out something new, dynamic, unheard of, and life-changing in this summer, and you will connect with who you need to connect with. I believe in you. I know you can do this. We do hard things, and we do what we can. So please stay in touch. Please register for everything. Please let us know what we can do to help you.